Video work. Okay. I have no idea what just happened. I apologize. My screen just started going.
And then Meryl popped in. Meryl had your name on her screen, but she was in our meeting.
Okay, so it wasn't me or the aliens.
Technology is our friend.
It's the
That was
universe
weird.
today. It's just, we're just accepting that
Okay.
this is the way things are right now.
Sorry, Zoom decided to update all of a sudden and completely kicked me out, but I'm back.
Okay, so it was all of us. All right, we're good. Okay. Okay, so no public hearings. Continuing on agenda and calendar, I don't have any updates for item C, so we'll keep going unless anybody else does. Warrants.
Okay. I hope I have them all here. Trevor, if you can let me, do you know, or Caitlin, if you can let me know if I'm missing any, not that I do have them, but I just pulled what I had. I was flying in the door, so this is what I had together right now. Sorry. All right. So for payroll, I've got batch 317 for 2024 in the amount of $88,539.59. And then I've got batch 318 from 3/5/2024 with a total of $87,517.65. And for vouchers, I have got, I'm missing 3021, and I believe I did sign it, and I believe I have it here. It's just not in this file. I've got 3019, and the clip is over the date, and I apologize. I think it was from 220 as well. And that was in the amount of $29,539.93. I didn't move the clip on that photocopy item. And then voucher number 3020 from 3/5/24 in the amount of $15,403.30. And 3022 from 4/2/24 in the amount of $24,608.43. Excuse me.
I have 3021.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sure I do have a copy of it here.
So voucher 3021 from March 19th, 2024, $38,656.80.
Thanks, Caitlin.
You're welcome.
Okay, we got the thumbs up. Any gifts or grants?
No gifts or grants.
Okay. Can I have a motion to, or if we need to discuss, approve the minutes from February 15th of 2024?
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Martel, I.
Taylor, I.
Mayu, aye.
Bird
Rose,
eyes.
aye. Okay, perfect. We have this as a standing item on the agenda. I don't know if there are any updates or if anybody has anything to discuss in regards to capital projects or the building.
I don't necessarily have any real updates, except that I saw Becky and the building committee walking around with people who are bidding on doing the siding, which is exciting. That happened yesterday. And I'm just gonna put it out there now that our parking lot is a not safe place to be, and it really needs to be replaced. And Steve knows this and advocates for it, from the highway department. I'm just letting the school committee know that because that might be a push that people want to try to start to make, because it's really dangerous. It's not in good.
Yeah. So I have already spoken to capital planning about the parking lot, and they have already said they were going to approve. Where they're waiting because Lenny wants to put the tank in the ground for the water tank at the school in case there was ever a fire. They're gonna put in a giant tank. Because it's really hard to get that much water to the school. But they're gonna do it in the next fiscal year, which I don't think is a great idea, and I can advocate for the parking lot to get done sooner. But it's just a matter of like how soon they can get the tank and get it in the ground and then do the parking lot over it. They don't wanna do it separately.
Well, I think the siding is a huge win, and the biggest win of all is the roof. So I think it's been a good go of it this year.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that it's not in
Yeah.
great shape.
Yeah, so I can also tell you that everything else pretty much was approved. They were trying to see if we could get local people to do the work, and I said, well, isn't that how we got here in the first place? Like so I don't know they did approve. I think it's all gonna get done, but they didn't want to do anything cosmetic. They said anything that was cosmetic only they didn't feel was necessary. So,
Susie, go ahead.
And when Jen said, not this fiscal year, the parking lot is not on the FY 25 list of projects. And then she's indicating FY 26, which we haven't begun to wrestle to the mat yet.
Jackie, do you think FY 26 is a minute away from now? Like, will there be comprehensive patching at least up until that point? Like, I understand that it
I mean,
can't.
Steve takes it he does take it really seriously. And so what happens every winter is that the plows tear up the already broken parking lot. And so then the kids are trying to play with asphalt chunks, which is real fun. And then we have to be like, don't play with the asphalt chunks. And then we move the asphalt chunks into piles. And then I ask Steve to come and he takes them away. So the asphalt chunks are not there, but then we have craters. And then Steve usually waits until April break so that the possibility of snow is gone. And he does come and he tries to patch stuff up as best he can. It's just the patching. It's like patches over patches over new craters patches. So, but he takes it seriously. And so he knows he comes and he tries to fix all that up as best he can.
Can I ask, Jen, when you were talking about the capital improvements were passing, but they didn't want to do anything with cosmetics, just things that were necessary. Are you talking siding or are you talking on the parking lot?
so no, it's not the siding. And
Okay,
so
that's what I thought. I just wanted
they are gonna do the siding and they're gonna do a lot of patchwork, but there were a couple of places where it's not pretty and they were like, well, just because it's not pretty doesn't mean we need to do it immediately. So
Gotcha. Okay,
where
thank
we're
you.
at with that. Yes.
Okay, if nothing further, we'll move on to new business. The first is identification. Oh, Jen, your hand?
I'm so sorry. Just
Yeah, that's
before
okay.
we move on, really quickly, just about capital planning in general. I just wanted to relay that there are some really good people on the building committee right now. And they have gone around to all the buildings in town and made a really detailed list of everything that needs to be done, including the school. So just so you know, it's all been documented and it's there. And they're pushing to get more and more done. So we have that on our side. Sorry.
No, you're good. Okay. Identification of school choice seats.
Yeah, this typically is done by the principal. I reach out to the principals around March or April because we have to have a school choice vote. If we're a school of choice, that needs to go to DESE by June 1. So I did speak to all of the principals at a leadership team meeting. And there is some availability at Shutesbury for school choice, but it really is so dependent on class needs. Jackie, if you have anything to add to that, that would be helpful.
Jackie, you're muted.
You're muted.
Am I on a delay?
You're
A
good
little
now.
bit.
No.
Okay.
You're good.
Well,
That's it. Norma.
Yes, we have some school choice seats available. In the past, I have said that I do not like to accept new school choice students past third grade unless they are a sibling. And there's space, and I've talked about my reasoning for that around wanting to grow a family within the community through the years, and that, you know, historically, oftentimes, sometimes children change schools in the upper grades for reasons that are difficult and maybe wouldn't be the best to welcome into a small school community. And so I usually cap it at third grade unless there's space in older grades and a student was accepted that has an older sibling. And so I'm saying the same for that this year. However, there is at least one small class that has a lot of need. And when a class has a lot of need, it might not make sense to accept kids that we don't know what kind of need will come as well. And so we may or may not open seats within that class. Because you know, we have to talk as a school team about the needs of that class. If you know what I mean. But yes, we have some space. So I would vote yes to be a school of choice. And it is also okay to vote to be a school of choice and still not have any seats available because things can change. But once we have the vote, we can accept students.
So that's next on the agenda where we're voting to be a school of choice. So we would need a motion.
I
To be
move to be a school of choice.
Thank you.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Martella, aye.
Taylor, I.
My UI.
Heard I.
Rose, aye. Okay. And it looks like we have the 2024-2025 academic calendar. That was
Yes.
included in the packet to vote on.
Yeah, and I'll just briefly talk to you. Part of our process has always been, as a union, to look at the schools we feed into, which is Amherst Regional, Maher, and Gil Montague. And to agree as a leadership team for start and end dates. We had one year where we didn't start at the same time. It makes it difficult for us as a district. So in looking at the calendars of the other schools from 7 to 12 and talking to the leadership team, we are looking at a start date for students on August 28th. The teachers would report on the 27th and 26th. We are looking to end school on the 13th, which would be an early release. However, we have to, by law, put 5 days in for the inclement weather, which would be the 16th through the 23rd, because we have to account for Juneteenth, which would be a holiday, no school if we're still in session. The only other items I'll draw your attention to are our curriculum days. The curriculum day in October is the 18th. It is not attached to a long weekend, which has proved to be difficult for families, so we have moved that. And our second curriculum day would be March 21st, which is on a Friday, also not attached to any other holiday. And we also chose to have a smaller December recess so that we can end school a little earlier. December recess would be the 23rd of December through the 31st to return to school on the 2nd.
Hmm.
Are there any questions or comments from the committee?
It doesn't look like it. Do I have a motion to approve the 2024 to 2025 academic calendar?
I move to approve the calendar.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Martel, I.
Taylor, I.
My UI.
Bird eye.
Rose, aye. Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so in April, we have the policy committee meeting and the school committee meeting. We need to choose a date because of April break falling when we would normally have the meeting. So our choices are Thursday, April 11th or Thursday, April 25th.
I can do either, so it doesn't matter to me.
Either works for me.
Either works
The
for me.
11th would be better for me. This is Jen.
I'm fine with the 11th if other people are.
The 11th or the 25th?
25th, yeah.
I think I can do either.
Okay, I can do either as well. So it sounds like the 11th.
Do the 11th.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, and I think we have to have a vote on this.
We do.
Okay. So do I have a motion for Shutesbury Policy Committee and Shutesbury School Committee to meet on Thursday, April 11th?
I move that the Shutesbury School Committee and Policy Committee meet on April 11th at 7 o'clock.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Martel, I.
Taylor, I.
My UI.
Bird eye.
Rose, aye. Okay. Next on the agenda, and I had asked this be put on the agenda because there was some back and forth and concern, I think, within the community about Amherst School Committee and their debate on when sixth graders would move to the middle school. And as far as clearing up any worry about Shutesbury sixth graders, it's my understanding, and Jen can confirm, that Amherst can decide what they wish to do with the Amherst sixth graders, whether they want to keep them where they are now or move them into the middle school. But I don't believe they can dictate and tell us that we have to send our kids there. And that would be a discussion that we as a community and a school committee would have.
Yeah, Bethany, you are absolutely correct. Because we are a separate district, we can decide to keep our sixth grade if we choose. We can decide to move them. If we decide to keep them, we can definitely communicate to the school relative to transitions for our sixth graders, which might look a little different because if Amherst does decide to do that, there may be some small nuances between sixth and seventh grade that our students may need to catch up on, but we've always been in communication around curriculum. And so it is our decision, not Amherst, for our students.
Can I make,
I think my confusion, I don't know if Anna can talk to it more too, is that the idea that they can't move, so they are definitely moving their sixth grade to the middle school, just a question of when. And they have to have they need to be separate from the rest of the middle school in terms of resources and administration and services. So obviously it would be in Amherst's best interest to open back up the regionalization, as I understand it, the regionalization agreement in order to try to simplify pieces of that. And I'm just curious, I guess, like how one goes about opening up that regionalization agreement and how like what sort of power we have in saying, no, we don't even really want to reopen that. We want things to stay as they are versus opening up that can of worms at all. I'm kind of curious about that, I guess.
So
I
my
don't-
understanding and probably other people who have been around a lot longer than me can speak to it. All of the towns and committees would have to agree to reopen the regional agreement because the agreement clearly states that all towns and school districts that feed into Amherst need to be in agreement regarding.
I think that's my biggest concern. I know Leverett has said at least their school committee has no interest in this either.
Correct.
Feels like Amherst is kind of they've decided where they're going and it's now really complicated and they're trying to figure out how to make it easier on them and that's not our problem, quite frankly.
I do
Yeah.
feel like it's gonna put our kids at a disadvantage because those kids are gonna go in together and they're gonna form bonds that weren't necessarily there before, and there's gonna be peer groups already formed when our kids get there for 7th grade. That really stinks. I'm not thrilled about that.
I did share with Bethany and Julie in an earlier conversation that although it's not a regional agreement, Irving has a tuition agreement, but Great Falls Middle Schools does start at 6th grade, but our Irving students remain in Irving for the most part in 6th grade, and we've just worked out with the administration to assist our students in, and it's not with friendship bonds, but you know, how to use a lock or how to adjust. We've asked for them to really take our Irving students under their wing and to help with the transition. But you're right, there is that social piece that does occur.
And I mean, I don't have I actually am mixed on this. And I'm not gonna like give you my whole spiel right now. It's not really needed. But it is mixed, and I think it's more than social, truly. I think that there's going to be a difference in curriculum and teaching and exposure. And I think the social piece is big. And I think already sometimes Shutesbury and Leverett kids have a disadvantage going in at 7th grade, knowing less kids, kind of feeling like fish out of water in the big city in some ways. You know, they're I'll speak for Shutesbury, they're super academically prepared, and we get that feedback in general, but it's just really different. And so now if we're adding a whole other year onto that with different types of exposure, I don't know. I'm a little mixed about it personally, but I also understand how people treasure the 6th grade in a small school as well.
Can I ask you a question, Jackie, just in terms of the logistics from the principal side of things? I'm sorry, Jen, you had your hand up and I totally jumped in.
Oh, it's okay. Go ahead, Jeremy. I
The protocol, I just messed it up. I just am curious, like for me, my concern too is that like, you know, we already, and Susie's spoken to it too, like with declining enrollments and all the rest, I think the thing for me with a school like Shutesbury is if you take the 6th grade out of there, I worry that we start to lose our ability to keep what we have here completely. That like as enrollments go down and we keep having to level fund budgets, it gets harder and harder to justify it with fewer and fewer kids in the building. And to me, like the academic and social thing that we have going in Shutesbury for our kids through 6th grade seems, I mean, I see the mixed bag piece, but it seems to me something that's working. And so I wouldn't really necessarily want to change it unless we had to, you know. I just kind of wonder your thoughts on that, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you say. And you know, I would even make the argument that the academics might be stronger staying in the 6th grade for in the elementary school. But I have to say, you know, I've been here for 10 years and I've watched the shift in social dynamics in the 6th grade. And you know, when it really started to come into play was when Shutesbury got internet. And when Shutesbury got internet, the 6th grade, like when I first got to Shutesbury, the 6th graders seemed little to me. They still seemed like little. The 6th graders don't feel as little anymore because they have different exposure. And so what happens then is that they feel more like nationally, usually 6th grade is in middle school. they feel more like middle schoolers. And so that gets tricky in the elementary world to provide them with the space that's appropriate for them when they're feeling like they've grown out of it, you know, and they're ready for they're more socialization. They have different language, they have different exposure, they're dressing differently. You know, there's all of these things that are much different than they were 10 years ago. And I do think that that's a lot of it. And so what we're struggling with now is we love our sixth graders. Sometimes you get a group that feel like elementary school sixth graders. And sometimes you get a group that feel like they're ready for middle school. And it's like a real hard year to try to like keep it good, you know? And it's like, and sometimes you have a mixed bag, right? Where there's some kids who seem really little still, and then there's some kids who seem ready to rock and be done. And so, you know, I think that's just the growing that we're getting. And when you've been with the same kids since you're 3 years old, and now you're in sixth grade and you have a small class, you know, sometimes when you're in sixth grade, you're ready to rock and find some other types of things. So like, I see it all, like I see all of it. I don't know what the answer is, but I can tell you as a principal, having sixth grade in the elementary school is a lot harder now than it was 10 years ago. And, you know, it's tricky. And I see pros and cons on both sides, but I do understand wanting to keep the specialness of the small school that's here now. And in keeping that for your kids, and especially when there's been struggles in the middle school, I think parents especially want to hold on to it even tighter, you know, and I totally understand that too. But those are just kind of my professional observations.
Thank you for that perspective.
I just wanted to say, on that note, I was gonna say the same thing about it being a mixed bag a lot of the time. I think, like that was the case with Amethyst class, definitely. And Amethyst was one of those kids that was like, I don't wanna go to middle school, I just wanna go back to my little school, why? But now really has matured into a full-on middle schooler and is loving middle school. But some kids, you know, it takes a little bit longer for them to get there. And we do have all those special traditions that I do not want to lose at Shutesbury. I think the sixth graders get a chance to like rule the school for a year, and it's a big deal for them. So I was just gonna ask if Anna, maybe are you able to bring that to the regional committee and just maybe speak on our behalf a little bit about how we do feel like it's important for our sixth graders to stay in the small schools, if we all agree that that's how we feel, and maybe.
I think they're pretty aware of that.
Okay,
I think the perception on the regional school committee is that all of the small towns will keep their sixth graders.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
the tricky part for Amherst, as Jeremy said, is, you know, if they're the only town that puts the sixth graders in the middle school, then they have to, in order to put their children there, they have to create a school within a school, because they can't be part of the regional system, because unless they reopen the entire regional school agreement. And
so crazy.
yeah, and so I think they are hoping to discuss the possibility with the smaller towns of doing that. That's going to open up a huge can of worms about, you know, allocation of funding and everything else. But it would save Amherst a substantial amount of money, because they wouldn't have to have duplicate administrations. Because if they put the sixth graders there, then they have to essentially have an entire group of administrators who can run the elementary school within the middle school. And that gets expensive. So
They don't even have administrators to run the school they have going right now. I'm sorry, I will be quiet about that.
well, what they will
That's where
do
the
is
reality
have
is.
one school instead of two, right?
Yeah.
So Wildwood and Fort River will be combined into one school.
Yeah,
And so then they'll have all of those administrators that they can put in the sixth grade.
it's true. That's true.
Like,
I guess the biggest thing for me was if maybe you can advocate for talking to them a little bit about the points, about the disadvantages of their kids moving and ours staying
I
in
mean,
their
I can-
schools, kind of where that may create some disadvantages for the rural communities.
So yes. And I think like the bigger question isn't, I think, so they have to do this. They're building a school that will not fit all of the kids, and they don't have any room for the sixth graders. So it's not a question. As soon as that school is built, they have to move the sixth grade.
Got it. So I guess, I
So
guess.
the
it would be
question is
good-
really, yeah, like
Sorry, go ahead.
working with, yeah, we just have to work with them to try to ameliorate that difference, because there's no question
Right.
about whether or not it's gonna happen, that we can't
Okay.
change that. All we can do is work with them to make that transition easier.
Gotcha. And that makes sense. So I guess that's what I would ask for then, is just maybe for them to keep that in mind, that there is gonna be a disadvantage for our students there, and ask them like what they're planning to do to mitigate that, and if they can put a plan in place if there isn't one already.
Wouldn't
That would
there,
be awesome. If you're
uh,
up for advocating for that, I know you're doing a lot, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, no,
and
absolutely.
wouldn't the
We haven't had,
response to
go
that
ahead.
be, wouldn't the
Go ahead.
response to that be then we should send our sixth graders there?
I know, I worry about that too, about the response being like, well, if if you're worried about that, then you should just, but like Jackie said, there are well, we don't want to bring that up, forget that. But there are advantages for them staying in their small schools. We want them to stay in their small schools. We just need to acknowledge that there are going to be like social structures in place already, and just asking about what they might do to mitigate that. But I don't want to extend the meeting anymore.
So my suggestion would be just to maybe, because we can't conduct business through email, if everybody could bring their concerns, questions, and comments to our next meeting, perhaps then we could put them in one document that Anna could take over, so we have everybody's views. And if Anna could maybe suggest to the Amherst Committee that there's an opportunity for Shutesbury and Leverett, whether it's a town hall or some sort of opportunity for parents and school committee members from the sending districts to share their points of view.
Just
So
keep in mind,
my suggestion is to bring that to our next meeting.
I believe Pelham doesn't want to send their kids either.
I've heard that both ways, but I don't know which way that is. I think I just want, like, my last piece, just the question that's in my head most after the discussion is just like, again, if we have to open up the regional agreement in order to make things work for Amherst, that opens up a whole lot of other things in terms of allocation and whatnot, that seems to me, like, at least at first blush, seems to me to be not beneficial for us to make it easier for Amherst. And I think that's my sticking point and my concern right now. But I'll think about it some more over the next couple of weeks and see if I can.
However, if you do, and this is the last thing I'm going to say on the if you do open the regional agreement at the Amherst regional level, can we not be attached to their busing schedule? Because that is in the regional agreement, so can we bring that up if it gets
You're
open?
here.
Okay. I think we're good with the discussion on Amherst for now.
And I
Uh,
just made a note to keep it on next month's agenda. If we have nothing to say, then that's fine, but
Perfect, perfect. That's great. And then if everybody, like you said, can kind of mull it over, think what questions they have, thoughts, concerns, and we can compile all of that. So at least Anna has something, to bring forward. That would be great. Okay, moving on to reports, the superintendent's report.
yes. There was an article a month ago in Mass Live about Western Mass population predictions. I just want to thank Representatives Whips, Blaze, and Senator Comerford for joining together to address the issues that we face in Western Massachusetts in the article. And they made very strong points and a call for action for our small rural schools on everything from school budgets to public transits to roads to Quabbin watershed reimbursement for our small towns. I just want to, I'm so thankful for their advocacy for our small schools and for Western Mass. At our last joint supervisory committee, which was this past Monday, we presented our Student Opportunity Act plan for the years 2024 through 27. It was presented and approved at that committee meeting. And this plan is required by DESE. It focused on students who are in the high needs category, and those are students with disabilities, students from low income backgrounds, and students who are multilingual. In Union 28, we are hoping to address the disparities in learning experience using evidence-based programs that are required by DESE. We are hopeful that we will promote students' physical and mental health and wellness, and select and skillfully implement high quality and engaging instructional materials. We are going to work on student achievement by focusing on social emotional learning, promoting students' physical and mental health and wellness in schools that are welcoming and affirming and safe spaces. And we will continue to focus on literacy. We will have a comprehensive approach to early literacy. We will develop and promote an approach to early literacy that is supported by high-quality core curricular materials that encompass the foundational skills students need to move on in the grades. And we are hopeful that next year we will develop a formal Union 28 district literacy plan for all 4 of our schools. And finally, as of August 24th of 2024, the executive assistant to the superintendent, Pamela Rogers, will be retiring. She has been in Union 28 since July 1 of 2018. Pam has spent the past 31 years working in school systems. 21 of those years were as a school secretary. Pam spent 23 years in Orange, 1 year in Irving, 1 year at Mahar, and 6 years in Union 28. Pam is an invaluable member of our central office staff, and she brings a variety of skills and expertise and a strong work ethic to our district. Personally, I've worked with Pam for 9 years, and I have to say I have never worked with a more professional, collegial, collaborative, and kind person in my 36 years in education. I think I can speak for all of Union 28 when I say her presence will be deeply missed. We will be posting this position in June, and the position will be hired by the incoming superintendent. And lastly, I have spent 9 years working with Principal Mendonza. They have been 9 wonderful years. Her unwavering support, her collegiality, her humor, and just her incredible professionalism has been an honor and a blessing. And I am so happy that I have spent 9 years working with her, and she will be truly missed.
Here.
Here.
And that's my report for tonight.
So much change. A
Yeah.
little overwhelming, but all
Totally
good.
makes
It's
my
all good for
brownie.
everybody, so. Yes,
Mhm.
all right, well, we'll continue on. For the, finance and operations report, and you'll see that we have, the final, adopted budget that we voted on, I believe it was last meeting. The finance committee has asked us to take a look at one piece. And Caitlin was kind enough to create a amended version. So we'll discuss that and then have a possible vote on that, once we get through the discussion. So Caitlin, I will let you take it away.
Sure, thank you. I'll keep the part before the budget brief. We are beginning the FY23 end of year report audits. So it takes a lot of reports that we have to funnel into and give to the auditors, and they will be able to do our end of year report audit for us. This is the 1 year out of 3 because I just submitted the waiver for the next 2 years. So we have the audit this year that we're using Markham for, and then for the next 2 years, we will not need an audit because we are a single school district municipality, and so it's just this one, and then 2 years without having to do audits, which is great. But this one's kind of a doozy because it's all of the schools and the fiscal audit all at the same time. And the Union 28 budget is up for amendment at the Joint Supervisory Committee meeting on Wednesday at 6:30. So the change that's proposed is to reduce the Union 28 superintendent line down to the contracted amount that our next superintendent is contracted to be at. I have some numbers. This would be a 4.53% decrease in administration for the administration clump for Shutesbury. And right now, I'm looking at the budget with a higher rural aid amount used, it would go from a 5.86 to a 5.77. So it's a 0.09 decrease, but it will have a little bit of a decrease, which you'll notice. And we can move if the vote passes on Wednesday, then we can amend the budget and we'll have a slight decrease in that line. So that brings me to our 2 budgets. We have the adopted budget, and then I did create a budget per request of an increased rural aid line. So I think you've been given both those budgets, but I can project them. I can have them on my screen if you would like to. Should I just do you present them?
I don't need to see it.
Yeah, I have it to the side.
Yeah.
Okay. So quick breakdown of the budget numbers. For the adopted budget, we have a town appropriation of 6.5%. And for if we were to use next year $15,000 of rural aid, we're at 5.86%. And then I kind of use that secondary one to say, well, what happens if the Union 28's amended? We're at 5.77%. And I can calculate what you wanted, what it would be for the voted for the first one with that reduced superintendent line, if you'd like me to. But it's about a 0.09% decrease.
So I guess my question is, when we budgeted for the rural aid, we were conservative in that budget. And if we go forward with the finance committee's request to up that to the 86, I believe the 86,000, and we don't get 86,000, where does that money come from? Go ahead, Susie.
So the FinCom asked it to be bumped up to 80,000, not 86, but it is 86 in the revenue this year. And I sent out a email explaining why we thought that was a reasonable projection for next year, both talking to our representative, Aaron Saunders, and talking to Ann Goby, the Rural Affairs Director. And it's in the current budget projection from the governor, but as you know, the whole budgeting process gets batted back and forth. Ways and Means hasn't come out with theirs. And this year, like it used to be, Shutesbury's budget will be voted on April 27th, which is clearly ahead of all the other back and forth, because sometimes the state doesn't finish writing up that budget till the end of August. So you never get to know. It's called juggling jello. And but we feel that the Chapter 70 money is definitely not being increased to the to towns like ours. It's being increased for the Student Opportunity Act. But in the legislator's mind, there is some support, and rural aid is one of those avenues. So it's always scary when you're dancing with the state. You don't know if they're gonna walk away, but the indication right now is not that. And the FinCom's job is to consider all the revenue that's out there. And so for that reason, we're asking for the revenue to be projected in at 15,000 more than was in the original estimate. So that's our rationale. It's not a cut to the school. It's meant to be deferring some of the tax impact, which we are still working out. We're clearly over 2.5. We're going to need more than the 2.5, and how far into our excess levy capacity that we dig. We'll figure that out. We're still figuring it out. And it means an increase in the taxes for the Shutesbury taxpayers, and we're trying to balance that. So if we think there's revenue out there, it's our job to sort of capitalize on it. And I certainly understand conservative numbers. FinCom does that all the time. But for that reason, they believe this is a reasonable estimate, 80,000. There's still a cushion of 6,000 that we project, but wish we had a crystal ball.
So my hesitations come from, for Leverett, they receive rural aid 1 year and then they cross the threshold, so they don't for the next year. And I think we try to budget somewhat conservatively, and we want to include it as a revenue to decrease the tax burden, but we are cautious that we might get caught in that situation where we don't receive any rural aid at all. So
I think she's in Caitlin, let me know if I'm not on the right track of your mind. But we've been watching a steady shift in school in terms of free reduced lunch status of kids not qualifying the way they used to, because our demographic is getting less able to qualify. So I think that that's in the back of my mind, is that the demographic from me has shifted over 10 years greatly into not as many people needing support. And I think we're just nervous that if we don't meet that criteria as a town, then we don't get the aid. Not saying it's going to happen this year, but I just see that trend. And if you see how much the houses cost in Shutesbury and are being sold in like the matter of seconds, you'll also understand that too.
Okay, Susie had her hand up, and then Anna.
I looked at those numbers. Leverett, in our region, Leverett clearly has a higher EQV than Shutesbury, significantly. And the cutoff for the rural aid, now I don't know where those papers are, but I looked at it. Shutesbury is significantly under the cutoff. And unfortunately, Leverett went over it by just a couple thousand. And that was hard for them. But we are significantly lower EQV than all the towns in our region. And it is true the market is shifting, but it is not necessarily, it has not put us out of the range of rural aid at this time. And I don't I mean, we don't get to know how they're gonna change rural aid, but these are the metrics they're using now. And being on the FinCom, it's about holding that anxiety and being realistic about where we are now, but we can't always promise that we'll be there later. But we can promise that we'll deal. The whole year is about dealing with stuff as it comes up. And so at this point, we see this, and to not incorporate that money would feel negligent on the FinCom's part.
Yeah, so my question is, now that we're offering free lunch for everybody, has it been more difficult to get families to submit applications? And, okay, so that's still being done very regularly?
Yes,
That's
because
not
it's
part
how
of the
we
issue.
get, because it's how they determine how much money we get with Title I as well.
I
And we
know,
pay-
but that's
we
for
pay
us and not
staff
for
on
them.
Title I. So we've been actively asking people to fill it out. Families that know they won't qualify get angry at us for asking them to fill it out. And when we try to say this is a universal thing we're trying to do because we want to make sure that we're able to get the funds we need to help us have our support teachers, most of them are willing to do it, but we reach out to everybody for it.
Great.
Can I ask a general question? And this is my newbie status as well, but like when we look at, unfortunately, having to hire a new principal, when we look at like our negotiations with the teachers union, how does that enter into the budget process, and how do we remedy those things after they occur? Especially with the town meeting being April 27th.
So we budget an estimate for typically what the cost of living increase is.
Yep.
And then if it comes in higher than that, then we look at means of, to be honest, I haven't had a COLA in the negotiation process. It's come in so much higher that we've had an issue. It's especially like typically like for one contract, they understood that we were well beyond the budgeted season. It had already been done. And so they proposed a lower for the first year, and then it escalated from there where we could budget for it later.
That makes sense.
Which was really helpful for us, because I don't know what we would have done if we had the first one. And then we have to make choices after that of what happens if it was to come in a lot higher than what we had budgeted for.
So there's some flexibility in this 1 year and then we can make it up in the future if we had to, when it comes to cost of living increases. And then in terms of principal salary or other monetary asks in negotiations, those we just have to try to.
We would have to, if the cost of living came in higher than what we estimated, we would have to overrun those lines and then find other lines to decrease as the year is going on, to not decrease the budget, but just underspend and be cautious about what we're spending through the year.
Okay.
But we have had negotiations where they've understood that the teachers union has understood that we have already had a budget that's passed. And that's when they say, okay, we'll take a smaller COLA now for this year because your budget's done. And then we will have higher for the next two.
Thank you.
Susie, go ahead.
And there is an option to have a special town meeting. I don't believe there's any restriction on what could be brought up as a warrant article at a special town meeting. Sometimes some towns regularly have one in the late fall because nobody can juggle Jello and get it all right. and sometimes they have to adjust the budget anyways. So, you know, a warrant article and popular support and a good explanation can be presented at a special town meeting.
Can I just add that given where the budget negotiations are at the regional school committee meeting, we may be headed for a special town meeting anyway. Yeah.
So going back to the rural aid discussion, rural aid is based on several years before with the DOR, what their per capita income calculation is. So when so for this year it was based on like 2019, 2020 data. And so it's, you always have to look back a couple years and decide like, where were the big changes? And since since those years were years of COVID, and there were a lot of shifts in housing and people moving, and I think that's where my hesitation comes in, because Leverett's per capita income jumped by $14,000 in 1 year. I do understand that we did get a significant jump this year in rural aid, and I'd like to be responsible to the town and budget to use that as a revenue. But I just want to state my caution in doing so, but it's ultimately up to the committee.
Go ahead, Jen.
Thanks. Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's based in our whole community, not just the school community, correct? So it's the whole town, and we have had times, I know, where in the past where the school community definitely would have qualified. We had like over 40% free and reduced lunch rate, and yet as a whole, we couldn't qualify as a town. So just something else to keep in mind there. It's not just the school community that matters.
So I guess going back to my original question, which wasn't necessarily answered. If we vote to put this through with the increase to 80,000 and the 80,000 in rural aid doesn't come through, where does the money come from? Go ahead, Susie.
So, as I said, it could be a special town meeting. If it's a big hole, it could
Mhm.
be some out of the FinCom reserve fund if it's a small hole. As Caitlin said, they squeeze the school budget, if that helps fill in the hole, and these things are not mutually exclusive. So, I mean, kind of, the whole budget is trying to make conservative estimates, and we believe this 80,000 is a conservative estimate. And we feel that the school has shown its willingness to work really hard to stay inside its budget. So we feel like we're still talking an inside the budget situation. And the FinCom, I feel like over time, we've developed a better relationship between the FinCom and the school. And I feel you can trust us to work on things with you. We're not going to just hang you out to dry or say you need an across the board cut. It will be the same process, which is we work really hard to find the pieces that make it work. And you also have been working hard to find the pieces to make it work. So I guess you know, kind of in this day and age, I still trust people. And I believe that that's how it works. And I feel like we've worked to build up that trust. So I trust that we will stand by you and work on it as it unfolds. It's a pretty big mess going on at the regional school budget. It makes you guys look like small potatoes, but you're not. You have a big budget and we're trying to meet it, and we're here to do that.
Okay. So maybe this is my next question, maybe, I guess it's just how this will work, because we also have the possible change coming to the budget, depending on how the vote goes at the Joint Supervisory Committee on Wednesday. So do we vote on this tonight? And then Caitlin has to rerun everything again with the possible joint Union 28, the joint supervisory item. What is the best way to do this?
That's not a big deal. I can rerun. Once the vote happens, I'm gonna rerun everything anyway.
Okay.
So you can vote for you can vote on the two budgets as presented, you know, which one you want to do. And then I will adjust, and then we'll do an amendment at the next school committee meeting.
So we're gonna have to vote on we're gonna have to vote on the budget again, most likely, no matter what, at our next meeting.
On the 11th. Susie, go ahead.
I am not an expert on this, but things will happen over the course of the year that you will end up with unneeded funds that you didn't anticipate all along. It happens all year long. So I'm not sure that you even have to adjust it for the 0.09 salary. The fact that it's part of the U28 thing, I'm not sure if that's why you would have to specifically approve it. But kind of at some point you draw a line, and then we just say this is where we're at, and then life happens after that, pluses and minuses.
Yeah, there seemed to be a consensus at Union 28 that everyone wanted to claw back their 0.07.
Yeah.
I
So
heard that
if
also.
it's a 0.07, I'll put the work in, and we'll do the vote to bring the best possible budget to the town meeting.
Okay. All right. So any further questions regarding the two budgets that we have here? Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion?
I move to approve the budgets. Do I need to be more
Seconded.
specific?
No, we need to be much more
Specific.
specific as to what you are actually
Oh,
want to.
I think I need the,
I move to accept the amended budget with the increase in rural aid.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Martel,
Taylor, I.
By UI.
heard I.
Rose, aye. Okay. Thank you for that budget discussion. It's very enlightening. Okay, principals report.
Hello, everybody. So I'm gonna start with a request, and I don't know if this is the time to request it, because this is kind of a new format for us in terms of Nature's Classroom. So I'm just gonna ask it, and you can tell me to come back and put it on the agenda. I don't know exactly, but I met with the 5th and 6th grade teachers, and we've been trying to institute, as of last year, a Nature's Classroom program, as you all remember. And we're trying to have 5th and 6th grade go to Nature's Classroom every other year. And it's always been my hope that the school choice budget helps to fund that. And and so what we're trying to do is do at least an overnight every other year for the 5th and 6th grade. And then on the opposite years, it's called like Nature's Classroom on Wheels, and they come to us and do some time with them. And so next year would be the year where we would do an overnight. And the 5th and 6th grade team and I met with Nature's Classroom last week, and their pricing has gone up, and the staff at the school's willingness to go for more than one night has gone down. So it kind of equaled out together to be good, because we agreed on a one night trip, because it's like a compromise. It will stay in the same finance bracket, and it will allow staff to agree to sleep over with the kids. And so it was a happy medium. And so it would be the same amount of money that I would be requesting as we did 2 years ago, which is pretty remarkable. And it's $10,000. That includes an overnight and all food and expenses for all of the kids. And it includes transportation to and from the place. And we're actually going to be going to a different place. The place we went to in the last time was Groton. And this time we're going to the Berkshires to Stockbridge. I'm actually not exactly positive if that's the exact place, but it's in the Berkshires and it looks really beautiful. And the staff was actually really excited about that. So again, I'm not sure how we want to do this. This is only the second time we've ever done it. I would like the committee to approve $10,000 from school choice to fund the 5th and 6th grade trip, so I can get that all set up now. And I want to save the date. We got the 3rd Thursday and Friday of September, which is great. And it would be a Thursday going into a Friday trip, and then they get to go home tired to their families on the weekend, and not have to go back to school. So that's the request.
I'm happy to make a motion to support the Nature's Classroom trip using the school choice funds as they have in the past.
Seconded.
Okay, any questions, or did you have a question, Jeremy?
No, I think my question was just like, we can do that, right? We can just like, like without it being on the agenda, it's not a problem.
We should be okay.
All right, I'm good with it.
And it's
I
school
have,
choice.
I have no
you have
problem
all
with the
say.
request at all.
Yeah,
The committee has all say over school choice funds too, so.
Right. Right on,
Okay.
great.
Okay, all those in favor?
Martell, I.
My UI.
Taylor, I.
Heard I.
Rose, aye. So when I did Nature's Classroom in 5th grade, it was in Beckett. So it
I don't
might be.
think it's Beckett. I don't think it's Beckett. I'm gonna write to you and tell you what it is, because I can't believe it's like not in my mind. But
We went to like Deer Island in Boston or something. It was something crazy like that. When we did it.
Kai really enjoyed his trip 2 years ago, or last year, I guess, whatever. And I'm a little sad that you're only going to be able to go one night, because it's really an amazing time for them. And teachers, step up, man. Sorry.
Yeah, except they're not being paid anything extra to be
I
away from their
know.
family and children for 2 nights. So
Okay.
you gotta like check it a little bit with that, like
I know.
we're lucky they're willing to go one night. It's not a have to, it's a please. So
Yes. But I will
and
tell
the
you,
kids'
my husband
behavior-
went.
yes, he did. He went, but the kids' behavior would be really hard without the teachers there. So like
Oh yeah.
it's a have to.
Yes. Thank you, teachers.
Anything else, Jackie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
MCAS is coming up, and I sent out the schedule to the grades that will be testing for that. And very similarly to we do every week, we don't put a lot of pressure and stress around it, but we do tell kids they got to try their best, because that's what we do. And we get them snacks and chocolate, and they get breaks. Everyone gets breaks. There's a lot of universal features that the principal can assign, so kids can have small groups if they need it, or they can have certain organizers and things like that. the Massachusetts is doing a really nice job trying to open up universal accommodations for almost all of the kids, which I think is really awesome. And, you know, we walk the fine line at our school, and I really feel like we do a good job about it, that, you know, we're not advocates of MCAS. We don't think it's awesome, but we also know that we're a public school and we have to have accountability to the state, and that it actually matters that we do well, and we have done well in the past. And that helps us, and it helps our school keep the autonomy that we have to be able to do the special things and the cool learning that we do. And so, you know, every year we have some rumblings of people saying that they're not going to send their kid, or they don't want their kid to take it. And I have to have like some really honest conversations. And I say this to you too, in case they reach out to you, that if one kid doesn't take it, it's actually really bad because we have not a lot of kids in our building, and we actually get scored on the amount of kids who take it. So we would get like demerits for kids not taking it. And because we have so few children, it actually, one student actually really matters. 3 students, we're not going to pass that part. So it's actually really important. And what we try to say to families is, you know, we're not going to stress your kid out. We're going to try to give them as much as they can to feel comfortable. And if they get cry, we're just going to say, try your best. And if they still cry, we're going to say, okay, looks like you're done, right? But you took it. And we also prepare them before the test, so they feel like they have the skills to do okay. And in life, you're going to have to take some tests sometimes. And it might be hard, but guess what? We're going to teach you some skills that make it okay, and you're going to get through it. So, I think that I just say that to you in case people reach out to you, which they sometimes do around testing in general. But over the years, I feel like I've had enough conversations where that's kind of lowering in its amount. And kids, like you say, some of your kids might even tell you, like, I know one of Julie's kids really enjoys those days for several reasons. And it's like, you know, it's some kids go home and say like, I like MCAS, I get chocolate. And it's like, we get to have extra recess. So,
My kid came home and put it on the calendar.
yeah.
So I don't know.
Hey, that's a win.
I got a shoulder shrug. Like, okay. Apparently you're not fazed by it.
Yeah.
He was excited about the chocolate too, I will say that.
Yeah. We have ample amounts of Hershey Kisses ready to go. We're going to have some special stuff at the end of the year. We are having a school musical. As I said in my letter, people should not be expecting it to be like Pirates, because it ain't going to be that, but it's going to be a cute school musical. We're going to have our instrumental concerts. We're going to have a field day. We're going to have some fun field trips. And something else most of the committee knows probably, well, Julie definitely does, and Anna, but the 6th grade parents decided to not do the spaghetti dinner this year. It felt like too much of a lift at this point to happen. And so there's some organization around a 6th grade ice cream store event party thing that's going to happen at the school. And the 6th grade is going to serve different types of ice cream to the community and the town. And we're really going to try to broadcast it to get a lot of people to come to earn some money for them to go on a 6th grade trip to Mystic. And we're going to try to make it really fun to have music outside and games and like a spring block party with ice cream, and have it be a nice special event that raises money. That's the point of this fundraiser, is to help the kids get to go on a trip, and that's what we're going to do. So that's what's happening for that. And you know, the last thing is, I don't really want to harp on it right now because it's been really emotional for me. But as everybody knows, I let the community know that this is my last year as the principal at Shutesbury Elementary School, and my wife has been appointed the superintendent of Waltham Public Schools near Boston. And my family and I will be moving to that area this summer. And so there's a lot of excitement and happiness around that. But there's obviously a lot of deep feelings and sadness around leaving a community I've been in for 10 years. And the connections I've made with everybody, especially the people on the screen. So it's been really emotional. I'm kind of grateful that I don't have to see kids tomorrow selfishly, because those are the faces that are going to make me really emotional. I've known them, most of them, since they were 3 years old. So that's pretty and as babies now, actually, like the siblings of the kids I had 10 years ago, I've known them since they were born. So, it's tricky, and I find it was a real privilege to be able to witness that and be parts of people's lives in that way. And, I'll have more to say as we go on, but I do just want to say to this committee, and I don't really care because I can't be fired really right now, that, there's no secret that some of the other schools in the union are struggling, and particularly with some of their school committees and or town relationships. And Shutesbury is doing really, really well right now. And that's, that's not lip service. The school itself is doing very well. And I think it's honestly because we've had the trust I've had the trust and support of everyone on the town side and everyone on the school committee side. And I've had the support and autonomy to do what I felt in my professional judgment was right for our kids in our building. And I've been able to then feel supported enough to stay for a decade. And I've been able to build that community for that long. And I think that support that I've gotten from the town and the community and the school committee itself is the reason why that stuff is able to happen. And so thank you very much. And for the people remaining on this school committee, I just really want you to remember that for the new person that comes in, because it's a really hard job. And especially in a small school, you wear a lot of hats, including politician, which most principals don't sign up for. And just to remember to give a lot of grace and support as somebody new comes into a position, that they probably don't know all the elements to a small school principalship. And just to give the grace and the kind support and the benefit of the doubt for a significant amount of time, so that they can get their feet under them and do the work. And then hopefully they'll stay for a decade too. And it will continue to climb. And I just wanted to say that because the success of the school couldn't have happened without the support of the committee and the town. It could not, because you wouldn't be able to have kept someone that long. So it's really true. And I thank you very much for that.
Jen, go ahead.
Thank you. I will try to keep this brief, but oh my goodness, Jackie, we are gonna miss you so much, and we thank you so, so much for everything you've done for our kids. I have to say, Amethyst was in the school from the time she was 3, and that was the year that Jackie started, and so here we are. This is so crazy. I'm gonna miss you personally so much, so thank you. Thank you. And congratulations. It's really exciting for your wife. Congratulations. And also I wanted to announce that Jess Benson Evans, for those who know her, is going to join the race for school committee for next year. So I am hopeful, very hopeful, that that will be a shoo-in and no problem, because she will be a fabulous addition to the committee. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. I don't really have any words, so I'm just gonna say thank you. And you are absolutely right, and I wholeheartedly agree that, watching the other towns in the union and watching our success is because of, as you said, the town and the school committee working together along with the principal, you and whoever this new principal is going to be. And I truly hope that continues, because that's what makes it the best possible school that we have. So yes. Okay. Anna, Amherst Pelham update.
Ooh, yeah. So, as you know, I think the the regional school committee decided to approve a budget that was beyond what the towns had agreed on. So we came to a four-town meeting. We had a budget that was like a 4% increase over last year. And as you know, 4% is not a level services budget. So 4% gives you a $1.7 million deficit from a level services budget. And that means cutting a lot. And a lot means like 14 or 15 FTE of like student facing positions. And that just wasn't acceptable. We couldn't do that. And so we asked Doug to come back with a budget that put all of the student facing positions back into the budget. And that got us down to like a little over $700,000 in deficit, which are mostly administrative positions. And what I will say is that too hurts, because right now I personally feel like the administration is not doing everything that it should be doing, in part because it's understaffed. And so, you know, the administration is taking a cut, and I think it's a cut that they can barely afford, if they can afford it at all. But we did our best to at least keep the teachers in the school system. But what that means is that, you know, the regional school committee is asking all of the towns to increase their budgets by 4.2 percentage points. So going from basically 4% to 8.2% for most of the towns, except for Shutesbury, because when in the Shutesbury budget, when they put the guardrails on, we were below the guardrails. And so we still were able to, we went up a little bit, but we were still under the 4%. So we're going up, but like a huge amount, from 2.8 or maybe 3%-ish to 8.2, which is a huge jump for us. And so I think what we're coming to realize is that none of the towns really can afford this. So we're going to try to figure out what we can do. In the meantime, the regional school committee is putting together a small group of people to go talk to Amherst College and see if they can provide some additional support to the regional school system. It's possible that we could end up talking to UMass as well, but that's a little bit trickier. The thing is that Amherst College has a $3 billion endowment, and you know, other schools their size do contribute to the towns that they live in. Amherst has bought up a lot of prime value real estate in the town, and they don't pay taxes on it. And so we feel like it's, you know, reasonable to ask them for a little bit of a contribution. So we'll see how that goes. And if we're able to do that, that could substantially reduce the amount that we have to ask the towns to dig up from their coffers. So we're hopeful. We'll see where that goes. The middle school principal is down to 3 candidates, and they are interviewing sort of as we speak. I think they had the last person had their interview with the superintendent today, and all of the townspeople and I guess all the teachers and parents and people have been able to meet them and provide some feedback to Doug. So I guess now we just need to wait for Doug to make a decision on the middle school principal. And the superintendent search is, I think I can say this, but I'm not sure. They have a short list of 4 candidates that will be interviewing in the next month. And so they are hoping to present, we're hoping to have a decision on April 30th. And then hopefully we'll be able to hire the person that we want. And there's one more piece of information that I'm not sure I can share, so I'm gonna hold on to it for now. But so that's a little tricky. There's continuing to be some incidents that relate to bias and bullying at the middle school, and what I perceive personally as inadequate response. And maybe it is because it's a personnel issue and we just don't know what's happening behind the scenes and they're not allowed to say anything about it. But the feedback that I have gotten from community members is that at the very least, there's a lack of communication, and the people who have made complaints are not being given adequate responses. And so I think we're still working on that. And the new superintendent and the new principal will have their work cut out from them. We haven't heard any real updates on the track and field. I think it was we got pocket approvals from all the towns to make an adjustment for the debt authorization. So we rescinded the debt authorization and replaced it with a almost identical debt authorization that just removed some specific language in the debt authorization that required that the money be spent on a artificial turf field. And so we just kind of struck out artificial turf from the debt authorization so it can be spent on a field in the middle of the track. And so we're still waiting on some information from the design contractors that should be coming, I would say, very shortly on cost projections for different design options. Trying to think. I think that's it. I don't think there's anything else. I can tell you, if you have questions about the budget negotiation, I can answer them. Go ahead, Jen.
Thanks. I have a question unrelated to the budget. I was just wondering if there's any word about Erin Lawler and the whole thing that's happening there. For people who don't know, there was a teacher who was fired and there's a lot of controversy around it. She was a very much beloved science teacher. And from what I understand, the kids are currently watching Magic School Bus fairly supervised in her class. And this has been months, not like days.
Okay, so I will specifically ask about that on Tuesday. But basically what we were told is it's a personnel issue and not under our purview. So there's very little that we can do. At the same time, I feel like if there is a classroom without a teacher, ultimately that is the responsibility of the superintendent, and the superintendent needs to be able to defend what's happening. And so I think it's fair game to say, what are the plans to fill that hole? And it's like, we can't tell them how to hire people, and they can they can fill that hole however they want to. But if the hole is not being filled at all, then I think that does still fall under the school committee, because you can't have kids not being educated. And that's
Yeah,
a
I'm
problem.
not sure where it's at currently, but as of a couple of weeks ago, that's what I was hearing from parents. My child is not in that class, but I was hearing
Thank
that
God.
their kids were just watching Magic School Bus, and there was like a teacher or a para popping in and out.
That's very, very disappointing. And I already know that Jody Stevens, who is the 8th grade science teacher or for Team B, is also teaching algebra because of that hole. And so there's I understand why there's a hole there. That was not an option, that hole. I feel like they had a teacher who was good and cleared of the complaint that was filed and then was not rehired. And because it's a personnel issue, they can provide no details about why that's the case. And they don't need to defend themselves because she was within the first 90 days of her contract and therefore essentially under an at-will contract for the first 90 days. So they can let her go for no reason at all. They can just say, you know what, not working out, don't want you, bye. And they don't have to give any explanation. So they're completely within their rights to let her go without an explanation. It's just frustrating to see that happen without and then have this big gap in the classroom where there's nobody filling the gap and the kids are just not being educated. So I will see if that slot has been filled yet and then just sort of see if there can be an update, but that's been pretty disappointing. And yeah, I really feel for the incoming principal. So we'll see what happens.
Okay. Anything further on Amherst Pelham, or are we good to move with Union 28?
Let's go to
Okay.
Union 28.
Okay, so quick update on Union 28. As Jen mentioned, we met on Monday. Bulk of which Jen already filled us in on. The rest of the meeting was mainly executive session. We went over the new superintendent's contract and then came back into general session, and that was voted on and passed clearly because Caitlin's revamping the budget. So that's it for Union 28. Is there a CES report or
That's
maybe
next week.
next week? Okay. Okay. Policy review. We don't have any policies to review tonight. I will tell you that at policy committee tonight, we went through 7 of them. And then on April 11th, we're doing 15. So anticipate lots coming your way, but we're getting it done.
Wow.
Ain't no party like a policy party.
So next on the agenda is executive session. I don't know that we necessarily need it, Jeremy, since we have
We're gonna have one tomorrow, right? I mean, come on.
exactly 1 o'clock tomorrow. We are,
Remember once when Caitlin told me that school committee was 1 meeting a month?
yeah, big fat lie.
6 this week, whatever, no big deal.
So like that,
We have to stop telling that lie to the public.
we really
And
did.
That is not the truth, and we need
No.
to tell the truth.
No, as Jeremy said, this is like 6 for the 2 of us this week.
This is my third.
Yeah.
Can I ask, do you think you're getting close to a resolution or a contract?
No.
No.
That's a funny story though. No, I mean, we're on our second meeting. These are slow processes, and so that's where we're at. We've had 1 meeting to lay out ground rules. We've had 1 meeting where we brought forth proposals, and now the real work begins. So no, we're very much at the beginning stages of this still. It's very interesting to see this from the other side. I've only ever seen this from the teacher side. So it's God bless all of the people involved.
Don't raise your teachers out of a job.
Okay, so that brings us to future business. As a reminder, we voted we'll be meeting again on April 11th. And then joint supervisory is May 20th. As a reminder at that,
And we didn't
I
we,
don't know how that's gonna work because Julie and I will be, April
what-
11th will be our last meeting.
April 11th is the last meeting at 10.
So as far as Julie and I,
Yeah.
April 11th will be
I was
our
wondering
last.
when that turnover happened after town meeting. Okay.
It'll be after town meeting when the two new candidates are elected, and then they need to be sworn in. So they should be sworn in and ready to go for the May school committee meeting. I don't know how joint supervisory is gonna work, because at that May meeting, you guys are gonna have to re-elect everybody to all the different committees. So,
Which means that we're gonna have to have the people from Shutesbury who are going to be representing us, because we're losing two of them with you guys.
yeah.
I'm just gonna go like stick my head under a pillow for a while.
Okay.
Do we know
I,
who's running?
Do we know who's
Yes,
running?
yes, so Jess Benson Evans and, oh my gosh, my brain is,
Leah Jack.
thank you, yes, I don't know her at all, but I hear she seems very sweet and very interested. She doesn't have children, but I think she's just got an interest in
I'm hearing you
education.
nominating her for chair. Okay, good.
Yeah, no, so what, no,
I've
I
heard that
think
she
it's-
was I heard she was a finance director for a school district,
She
though.
was the
Okay,
finance
awesome.
director for Athol, but she
Oh,
still works
awesome.
in
Okay.
schools.
Wait a minute,
Awesome.
so is Jess on the ballot? Because I just looked at the website.
No, no,
is
she's
she
gonna
still a
have to run
write-in?
a writing campaign. She came in, I put out that message to everybody because no one stepped forward. So I just like put out a plea to a bunch of people that I thought would be great candidates and said, please, please, we need somebody. And then I got two people who stepped forward at the same time. And I think I very kindly ask the other person to wait till next year to run, because I think that Jess would really be a phenomenal addition right now, and she's willing to run for the 1-year term that's open, and she's
She's
not
not the
sure if she's gonna.
she's not the president of the mycology.
Yes, she is. Yes,
She's
yes,
that just
yes, yes, yes.
she is
Yeah,
fabulous as the
she
mycologist.
is,
She's awesome.
and she's an educator, and her kiddo
She does
went
have
to
a kid.
SES. Yes.
But
Yeah.
not, yeah.
Yeah, and she did go to SES, and she also has homeschooling experience. I just think she'll be a good person to have a balanced view on the committee. But what I would like to add to future business, if it's not there already, I know we're still going down the list, but just maybe a little discussion about this, about who's gonna possibly go for chair, because I think that it's probably I'm the longest serving at this point, but I've only got 2 years under my belt. And I'm okay with taking it if need be, but we should just maybe have a little discussion about all the change that's occurring, because we're losing so many people all at once, not just on school committee, but overall as a district.
Yeah, that might be a good discussion point for that April meeting.
Let me also just throw out there that, and I'm about to speak for Beth too, but I think that if you have people who are new to the school committee, that if it would be helpful to just get other perspectives of like, here's what it really is like, and here's like just run down the different committees and what our experiences of like the time commitment, and yeah, I think that might just be helpful to hear from other people, and I'm willing to just be called for that.
Thank you so much, Julie, and thank you both so much for everything that you have done for the school and for the committee. You are awesome. I know you both have a lot going on, and you have devoted a lot of time and energy to us all. And thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You've been fabulous. And I am definitely going to want to pick your brains at some point. If I'm going to try and chair this committee, I definitely want to sit down with you and just find out what.
Yeah. And I will say I had a very candid conversation with Leah about what this committee entails. So she is coming in eyes wide open.
I just think everyone who comes in needs to come in understanding what it is. Even if I guess they're already in the door and they just need like a cold splash of reality before they undertake. Like it's definitely a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, I will say I was not prepared at all prior to joining. I didn't even realize it was a 3-year term. I thought it was a 1-year term. I just like didn't, I jumped in the race at the last second because nobody was running. It was similar to Jess's situation. And then it was like, oh, okay, this is a bigger time commitment than I realized. So definitely thank
This
Yeah.
year has also been a crazy doozy. So Jeremy, I know you were like baptized by fire, but
Oh,
like
this is start my
let
life.
me let me just say you are what happens when there is a crucible. Like you've come out with so much experience just from this year, and
Yeah.
you're gonna be great.
But then,
And
you know,
Anna too. And Anna too. Yes, yes.
I would just say
Oh.
I'm so thankful for Anna taking that Amherst position. Imagine, like I will take CES every day and show up to every Union 28 meeting gladly, to avoid that. But it is funny though because I think we, finally getting the superintendent in place and at least starting down this negotiation road, which is probably going to end without Bethany there. I was.
Yeah, I don't even know how that works.
I know. I was really feeling like, oh, it's okay though. We're just gonna get through this, and then I can breathe again, and it'll be a while before and then of course, it's never gonna be that way. So it's okay. We'll figure it out. We'll find our way through.
Yeah. I'll also do some research on the Union 28 meeting because
I thought
that's
we might
coming up May 20th, and typically our school committee meeting is gonna be the Thursday of that week, so you won't have elected.
Right.
Well, so when is the Union 28 meeting?
May 20th.
we didn't schedule another one, right? That is the next meeting for real, for sure.
Well, there's
So-
No, we're meeting next
one
week
next
for the
Right, no,
budget.
the perfunctory ones, but okay.
Yeah.
So who generally goes?
the three Jeremy, Beth,
Oh,
and I.
it's me,
Okay.
Bethany, and
So Jen, can
Really?
you go? Because I think I can go, and then maybe we can still have 3 people at it.
For May
That would-
20th, yeah, I believe I can do that.
I think we can actually probably get by with just 2. It just needs to have the quorum, and then we could
Yeah.
actually re-elect at the next meeting. Probably would be okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna throw out, can you just double check that those assumptions would like
Yes, yeah,
because I think I'm not sure about your voting rights if you
that makes sense. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think you would be,
Oh,
but I don't know that people who
I
aren't
think it
Who
can
is-
be you or a delegate.
Who is the alternate? Who's the alternate?
that's a
Didn't we
good
have-
question. I don't know.
I thought we had an alternate, but
We do. It's on the hold on.
You're
let me-
right. I think you're right. I don't know who it is though.
hold, I'm gonna look on the town website.
So Leverett is having their town meeting the same day as Shutesbury.
Oh,
And
okay.
they're in the same position because they're
They have 2
they're
people.
losing 2, their
Yeah.
chair and well, so Jess Rochlow and Becky too are both leaving. So
Mhm.
they whoever's coming in is in the same position as Shutesbury, where we're
Anna-
trying to scramble and
Anna, you're the alternate. I just saw.
No.
All right.
Okay, so I will make an effort to go then.
Okay, perfect. Jen.
Sorry, just very quickly, I wanted to say that April 27th happens to be Amethyst's birthday, and my older daughter's gonna be here from out of town, and we're doing her birthday party that day. So I can make it to town meeting. I will be at town meeting. I will help Jess stand outside and hand out stickers to put on ballots. But if there are people who are willing to alternate shifts with me that day and help promote people voting for Jess to get in, that would be awesome.
Just
Or
needs one more
maybe not
vote than anybody
promoting,
else, right?
But I'm sorry.
She just needs one more vote than anybody else.
That's like absolutely right, and it's probably like rando people may
No,
like
but
write
you would be
themselves in, but it
you would be
happens.
surprised.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
would be
And there was
surprised.
a push, like there was somebody who ran that was a little upset that they didn't get in before, so it's possible that they may push to get in again and run their own writing campaign potentially. But that's like total conjecture that it's not.
I haven't heard
Like,
any of that.
Jen, I just want to point out that I don't think you're actually allowed to campaign for people outside of the.
yes, no,
I'm
no,
just-
no, I'm
like,
aware.
Don't
No,
get
I'm
yourself
aware.
in trouble. Okay.
Yeah, no, but I did talk to Grace about it, and as long as we're 100 feet from the polling place, we can hand out stickers to people as they're coming in. So we have to make sure we're 100 feet from the elementary school, but we might be able to at least like give people the stickers to put on their ballots if they choose to, if they would like to vote for Jess. I don't know. It's a little hairy, all of it. I'm not quite sure.
Jed, I'm not sure you're allowed to kind of campaign for people during a school committee meeting either.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And I apologize. I'm just, because she's the only person that we have at this point, that's the only thing. It's just like, wanting to make sure that we have something going on that day.
We're gonna
Sorry.
wrap this meeting up though.
Yep. Okay, so we are good. I will see those, well, I will see those of you tomorrow for contract negotiation executive session. I will see joint supervisory people next week, for budget review. I believe that's on Wednesday. Could be wrong.
No, I think that-
Jeremy, I will continue to see you for more contract negotiations. And then
Yay.
you all on April 11th for policy and school committee. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very
Bye.
much.
Oh, we need to
you.
adjourn.
Oh, I moved to adjourn.
I second that.
Bye.
Aye.
Aye.
Bye,
Bye,
guys.
everyone.
Bye.